Welcome, one and all, to 52 Weeks of Green Lantern, week number 16. This will be Green Lantern, issue number 4. I'm the Man in Black, your host. Let's go ahead and talk about this issue. Now, for those who remember, Green Lantern number 3 ended with Hal Jordan flying into the Sinestro Corps central battery with an attempt to destroy it via a failsafe that Sinestro built in, which apparently does not work because it is now attempting to disintegrate him. Now, the one weak spot in this new issue is that, well, Hal does not get disintegrated. Now, nobody really expected that, but I still think it was kind of a cop-out how it turned around. Pretty much, the Ring thought he was, the power battery thought he was Sinestro, went to transport him to Quard, realized he wasn't, and then just spat him out. Hal's taken prisoner. Sinestro he goes from, in the end of the last issue, remember he actually showed what it looked like concern. He's like, oh my god, Hal's being killed, we're dead. He really looked concerned for Hal's safety. Obviously now, he's, oh, how the hell did Jordan screw this up so badly? So, bit of jumping tracks there, and that is, again, the real weakness of this issue. Now, both Hal and Sinestro get taken prisoner, as people fighting, two people against an entire corps are wont to do. Hal gets put into a cell where he ends up exhausting his power ring. Sinestro gets tortured. Art is very good. We see Sinestro, even the Sinestro Corps members say, the first time they've never even thought of Sinestro screaming in pain before. So Sinestro is not in a good way here, but he does really shine through this issue in some extent. I mean, he's obviously still psychotic. It's his character. That's how he's going to be. But when they realize his willpower is too strong for him to be tortured and lose his power ring, they throw him in a cell with everybody who has reason to hate him. Now, I love things that go into Sinestro's backstory, because for one, it's a story we've been told in bits and pieces over the past 50 years. There's never really been a story arc. Sinestro gets his ring, Sinestro becomes corrupt, Sinestro does this, it's always been bits and pieces. You see a couple pages here, a panel here, maybe one issue here, but you never really see the whole thing. So at this point, Korgar is in a worse shape than Sinestro ever left it. Ever. Granted, these are still people who remember him as the fascist dictator of the planet. Now, they've gone through that. They've had the revolt. They've had another Green Lantern who they basically exiled. Then they had his daughter as a Green Lantern. They started not to mind Green Lantern so much. Then the Sinestro Corps moved in and enslaved the frickin' planet when Sinestro wasn't looking. And now, if there was any redeemability, well, the one character that speaks was basically the one who was most likely to be on Sinestro's side. She was the one who believed that he was doing, if not the right thing necessarily, but for all the right reasons. She agreed with his ideology, if not all of his methods. We don't know that for sure or not. Here, she's pretty much just like, no, you brought this hell upon us. You brought the Sinestro Corps. You brought Arkillo here, Mongol. All of this is your fault. So, Hal is still in his cell. He hears all this, and he's basically, but Sinestro, you're the one with the power ring. You have. He pretty much says Sinestro is a better Green Lantern than him. He's pretty much, if anyone has the willpower to pull off this plan, you're the one. Granted, Hal does not have a ring to make that comparison with, but he's pretty much just put Sinestro on the top in terms of willpower, which, the more we've seen of Hal lately, the more I could believe that. Sinestro is as headstrong as Hal. have very different belief structures. So Sinestro arms the citizens of Korugar that are trapped in with him. Kind of the opposite. He was put in there basically so that he'd have to defend himself and use up all of his ring, drain it. That didn't happen. They weren't. These people know Sinestro a little better than his core. They've known him a few more decades. They don't want to be slaughtered. So he arms them, thinking they're going to break free. We get a cliffhanger as they turn on him. Now, granted, Sinestro could easily just be like, nope, I'm taking back all of these fake rings back into mine. We're done. Which I think is what he's going to do. But the cliffhanger is Sinestro versus Korugar. Now, like I said, there's only so much to it, but I really enjoyed this episode. I really love anything that goes into Sinestro's backstory, his his means, his weaknesses, his strengths, as a Green Lantern. I mean, we've seen plenty of him recently as the Sinestro Corps leader, and we've seen him, running a war. We haven't really seen him trying to do good and what he feels is good, what the results are, and all that. So I love any issue that delves into that. The art here, I definitely think this is some of the best art that I've seen from this artist, Doug Mahnke, or however you pronounce his name. Definitely some of the art that's most agreed with me. You get the whole, any of that symbolism when you get green and yellow and the energies interacting. I'm not sure if Ivan Reyes or Ethan Von Sciver were the one that first started that, or if someone else did, but it's always really great when that happens. DC has some really great artists working on Green Lantern. Even when I disagree with their work, when they do things like that, I always love it. So that's pretty much all I've got to say. What I think about next issue, I think that they're going to turn on Sinestro. We're going to get a few panels of Sinestro getting his ass beat. Maybe Hal gets a ring and breaks out, or helps them or something. If Sinestro eventually gets his wit, either all the rings drain in the first fourth of the issue, or Sinestro takes them all back. One of the two. And then we'll have another fight. I imagine that Sinestro will have a hidden power, a power battery in hammer space like he usually does to charge his own ring. Whether he gives Hal one, I think Hal might eventually get one. We haven't really gotten any hints as to a Yellow Lantern Hal, but we've never seen him with one yellow ring. We've seen him with, 10 yellow rings, pretty much wiping the floor with everybody. But I don't think we've seen him with a single yellow ring, unless it was in War of the Green Lanterns, which I haven't read yet. So, I'm kind of curious as to what kind of fight comes next. If Hal and Sinestro have any confrontation over what happened there. Sinestro's not going to see the error of his ways, at least not to his full extent. That's just his character. So, I'd like to see what happens. I imagine that his daughter, Soranik Natu, Green Lantern of that sector, is going to stop by at some point. I hope so anyway. I get the impression she's not going to have Kyle with her. I'm assuming they're still dating, but who knows with the reboot. But I'd like to see her sometime soon if all this is going on in Korugar, unless something's happened to her that I don't know about. So, until next week, this is the Man in Black, out.